Hello everyone, welcome back. This is a Shades of Fall video on how to paint this lovely watercolor scene. If you haven't checked out the swatching of the colors from our monthly watercolor subscription, you may want to go check out that previous video because I talked all about what's in this kit, how to get it, and what the colors are and why they're advantageous to have for fall in this season. Today we're going to be painting this beautiful little scene, whether you make it on your watercolor cards. In the kit they come with these beautiful Fabriano deckled edge watercolor cards and the envelopes. So we're going to practice and then we're going to make one as a card with this little scene on it. I know it doesn't look beginner, does it? No, but we're gonna do it in a beginner style and then you can kind of go from there. You know, those of you who have a little more experience, it will turn out a little differently for sure, but we got to start somewhere, and it's really good for you to practice all these techniques. So let's get out your practice paper first, and I'm going to take one of the brushes that comes in the kit, and we're going to be doing a little backwash, right? So what we want to do is we want to practice getting this kind of backwash area here, because I think that's one of the most challenging things for people to get right. So what we want to do is we want to take a little bit of the sapphire and we're going to mix it here. So you notice it's a little brighter than what we're shooting for. And in order to tone that down, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can actually add several things to it. Now, if we go and add red to it, it's going to give you a little more purpley blue. If we add yellow to it, it's going to give you a little more green blue. If we add a little bit of green to it, it's going to tone it down just a tad, right? So as I start adding a little bit of the jade to it, it's going to start giving me a little more mood in my shade. So I'm just adding a little bit as I go along until I get something that is not as bright as the starter color. And that's why these colors were shaped up like this. You want to add some water, filling my brush with water and just kind of liquefying it down. Now you can wet your paper or you cannot wet your paper. What I would suggest, I like to partially wet my paper. However, let's do it dry on the practice paper. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of do this outline here, right? So just this outline and the upper portion of my paper. And I just want to do just the color, just like that. And then I'm going to just add some water. Okay, grabbing a little more color and working that in. We're going to start giving the inner parts a little more color. And then we're going to rinse out our brush, put some water in it, and go along the edge just to soften. And voila, we now have the start of our nice little washy background. So you can see where you don't really need to pre-wet the paper because we're wetting it plenty. And I'm doing a mix of some darker areas, right? And some lighter areas, and then you just like let it wash out and bleed. If you'd like a little bit more moody shade on the backdrop, which I'm going to leave it the paper because we still have to do this, you could mix in more color and change and maybe do a second blue in the background, or you can even do gold in the background. You can do a little bit of the yellow in the background and develop a little yellow area, anything you want. And then this bottom part, it automatically is mimicking the shapes of the trees here. And if you feel that you've messed up, just take your rag and slightly soften it. Just like that. And soften it. So that's as easy as that. So continuing on with the practice paper before you use your fancy paper, because this is going to turn out even better on the fancy paper, right? So when you use this on your Fabriano paper, it's going to look even more gorgeous. I'm actually not going to paint my wood just yet, my darker color. I'm actually going to go and lay in the yellows next, because yellow and blue make green. So if I just kind of roll in yellow, what I know is where it hits the blue, it's going to go green. And where it doesn't hit blue, I can add red, right? And so now all of a sudden it's automatically, as a base of this gorgeous Autumn Glory yellow, going to give me everything I need and more as I mix in different colors, right? For my trees and everything else. So I love this because we've already got this blue over here, and when it hits the blue, it's going to give you some green. So this is the beginner version of this painting. I'm just kind of taking my brush and I'm just gonna boom, 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 just kind of hit in a lot of my yellow, as much as I want. Don't want to go crazy, but you can see as I mix it and I keep hitting it, it's mixing in and already giving me versions of the yellow and versions of the green. How awesome is that, right? Totally easy. So this is still slightly wet, not super, super wet. And I'm just going to kind of go up in here to get this little bush going. Is that awesome or what? And then I can go back down in here with what's on my brush, and I'm just kind of pulling that color all the way through. So, so simple. Rinse out our brush. Let's grab a little bit of the red. And again, just layer it in. As it hits the yellow, it's going to give you those lovely shades. A little bit more. It's just a perfect red for autumn. It's just really pretty because it's a very moody shade. It's not too bright, not too pink, and not too red. I feel like this is just what we needed for this time of year, you know? Now you don't want to overdo it. You want to kind of go gingerly and go in and in some areas add a little more red, and some areas back off. And then you want to leave some areas that don't have anything at all, right? That just have the yellow. I'm gonna go over here just a bit. And I'm just tapping with my brush, doing this little line here. You can also do a roll of your brush just for randomness. That works out really well too, because I can just very easily roll a tree line here and then fill it in underneath. Tap, tap, tap. Kind of random. Again, just a really quick, easy beginner way of doing this. Now, as I kind of hit some areas, I'm going to leave little tiny little dots because I want that live edge, you know, to not look so contrived. I want it to look random, but I also want it to kind of like have a mix of stuff that spreads in. Now let's go and we're going to grab the jade and we're going to come in front and just give the jade a little bit of color in that tree line. So we're going down here with this. Again, down here. And this is still just the practice paper, so the colors are going to look way nicer even on the Fabriano paper. Now we're going to grab a little bit of the other green, which is the prickly pear. And if ever I feel like I've gone a little too heavy and I want to lighten it up, I can just do that. Very easy. So if you notice, I'm still kind of layering over areas. Some are wet and some are dark. It's for something really fun and random. Take a little bit away, add a little more of the prickly pear green. Mix in a little bit of the blue down here on the bottom. So we've got just such a lovely mix of foreground color, midground, background. So nice. And again, practice paper, right? It's just kind of giving us that ability to use our hands, get ourselves warmed up, get things started. So that's as far as I'm gonna go, you know. As I go up into the tree, I can even take a little bit of my green very lightly on my brush and just give it a little tap here and there. I don't want to add too much green because we're in fall and there's not a lot of green in the trees once they're at red yellow stage, right? I'm mostly just looking for shadow, just a little touch of shadow to mix in there. And in some areas you can do a dry brush effect on your brush just to kind of brighten up some of that red even so much more. This is the size 12 brush from my website. It's a pointed round. I sent out a lot of different sizes in the watercolor subscriptions. It's just kind of random what size you get if you would like a specific size or the size that I tend to like because I like bigger brushes myself. You're welcome to go and choose any size you like from the website. They are very, very inexpensive, but such great little brushes to use. Okay, so I got a little texture going here. I'm gonna add a little more yellow because I like having orange, you know. I like those little pops of the warm yellow. Okay, easy peasy. A little bit of yellow through here would be nice. Again, I'm giving this a lot more attention than it deserves right now, being a practice paper. Okay, so now we need a little more of our blue, and we're going to just kind of lay in a little shadowing of that background tree. And then I'm just gonna take my finger and smear it around just a bit. Beginner, beginner. Easy, easy. Don't overthink. Just add the texture here for trees. We're gonna straighten this all out in just a second. You just want a little bit. You can even go here and just texturize it. Look at that, got all that texture in, lovely. Now, as this dries, and it sometimes is preferred to let it just dry, but since we're doing a tutorial, I don't want you to sit here. Have a little sip of my coffee for a second, and then I'm just gonna go right in and lay in those trees. Okay, so I prefer to lay my trees in with my tapered brush. This is available on my website. It is a hand brush that I shape myself. I just really love it. But you can also use the pointed rounds. The pointed rounds are excellent. They have beautiful, beautiful points on them. So either one will work, but me personally, I prefer my tapered rounds. I just love the way that they lay stuff in. So I'm gonna mix in my palette a bunch of these colors together. So I'm gonna do the blue. I'm gonna take some red, until I get kind of like a darker, shadowy blue. Or even like a purple, you know? Something I can use that's more of a shadow color. You can even use a little bit of green, mix that in. Because we're eventually gonna get, you know, a really cool neutral. I like a little more blue leaning neutral. I just like the color of it, you know, so I'm gonna stop there. So I did a nice blue leaning neutral, and now we're gonna start adding our trees. So our main trunk can be here, and I'm just gonna start building that up. Just like that, and we're just gonna come off. Make it a little thicker on this side. And then, see how I do it with this brush? I just really love the brush for that reason. Can you see? Let me go up a little higher here. So the point of the brush allows me just to do like a lot of different weights, and they're really, really nice and random. That's why I shape some of my own brushes, because I just really can't get this from anything else. They're just too consistent, right? So I'm going in and out of the leaves. Some areas I'm gonna let it cover. So I'm picking areas that have like maybe a brighter red and letting those offer more coverage. And I'm just kind of, if you've ever looked at trees, they go on forever. So you don't have to worry about having really too many branches. I just think it's good to see some and not see some. And on top of it, you want to kind of like have a little bit of a plan of where they are, because sometimes you can get it to look just too heavy, you know? And I don't really want them to be too heavy. I would rather it just to have like a flow. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is why it's kind of good to do it on practice paper, because if you screw it up and you don't like the way it looks, then ultimately you haven't messed up your card. But if you get it and you love the way it looks, then you can almost identically put your all of your little winding branches and stuff back into the other one, you know, almost at the same pattern. And then you can leave out anything that you don't like. Like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way that looks at all. You know, like maybe I want more going in another direction, or I want it heavier here, you know? Like I kind of like it to be a little heavier here on these lower branches, just because I think it just looks better for this particular tree. And that has to do with the way the foliage, you know, is floating around right now. And also you kind of want to remember trees are random. They don't like all kind of interweave perfectly, right? So you also got to keep in mind this is fall. So fall has already lost pretty much every single day a lot of its leaves. So if it's too fluffy, it's not really going to be looking realistic, and you might think, yeah, something wrong, something doesn't look right with that. So there we go. So I've got that tree in. Now I'm going to wet my brush just a little bit just so that I lighten it, and I'm going to put in a little bit of branching in these back trees here. Just kind of random shadow branching. Nothing too crazy. You can even smear it. And then here, we've got that like bare branch kind of headed off, right? I really actually like the bare branch. I think that's really cool. And then a little bit more color for this branch over here. So I'm just gonna start building it up and get nubs into the, getting a lot of nubs in there. Also, if you don't have the tapered brush and you just really want kind of more random, you could just kind of shake your tip a little bit, you know, like if you have a shaky hand, then good on you, because right now that's actually going to work in your favor. You could also put your hand on top of your other hand, you know, like this, to kind of give you a little more structure if you have trouble. Now if you notice, this one is going to be darker, this is going to be a medium weight in the blue, and then the lighter weight is in the back. Now if we want this this kind of random twisty branchy tree to be a little darker, all you have to do is just kind of go over it a little bit more. I love that. I love how some of these branches are, I want you to notice how some of the branches are faded more into the back and some of them are coming forward. I think it looks great because the tree pops more, you know? Now, I see a couple of areas where I went a little too crazy with my tree. So what would I do to fix that? Simply go in and add a little bit of water to rub that out. And then take a little more color, and that's going to give you that balance, you know, really easy as it dries. You know, any area that you added too much water and it doesn't look like there's enough color, you can go back and just kind of dry brush stippling in, right? So this brush is very dry. I have just some paint on it and I'm just kind of stippling it in. I don't go over the same spot a lot because if I re-wet it, it's going to disperse and the paint is going to have maybe turn out a lot lighter than I had originally intended. But that's the best way to like just delete any little areas like that. See how I just covered it because I didn't like it. It was just too thick, too many branches going through, in my opinion. So that's a great way to get rid of it. It's just either paint right over it or just wet your brush, scrub it just a little bit, and then just, you know, take it out. And then you can layer. You can let it dry again. You can add more layers. You can do whatever you want to. You can even go over here and dry brush and just roll some, like spread your bristles out a little bit and just give it a little more texture. Now I gotta give you a warning because coming up, I am gonna go crazy on you guys with some really fun stuff. Coming up in the next palette, right? So in our next palette for December, we're gonna do Starry Nights and it's gonna have crazy fun texture. We're gonna have such a good time, so get ready. This is just creating texture, but we are going to have this explosive, really fun looking texture in the December palette. So if you haven't signed up, you definitely want to sign up for that because it's going to be such a good winter night and just a starry night. And then coming in January, we're painting Northern Lights, and another really fun thing that we're going to be doing with lots of colors and lots of sky, just at the time when we're going to be like really over it, right? We're going to be like, okay, Christmas is over. I'm so sick of the cold. We want spring to come back. And that's when we're going to do Northern Lights. So lots of fun coming up, as well as more videos this month for Shades of Fall. If you guys had a good time, please let me know. Hopefully this is very easy for you to do. You can do less color, more muted. You can do more color and just get it really to pop, but either way, you're gonna have such a ball. Now, if you want to add a little bit of the metallic on this, and this is going to be a card, very easy. Just take the tip of your brush, and something easy to do is to like highlight just a few of your branches in your trees. That's one thing that you can do. Really easy. You'll go crazy with it. I mean, I have to warn you, once you start to add gold, it's really hard to stop. So that just adds a light little touch of gold, which I think is really pretty. You know what I mean? Another thing you can do is actually start to roll a little bit of your gold along some of your bush lines. So this is just after it dries, just randomly follow one of these bush lines here like this. And you just rolling, just kind of stamping it on. And you see what it does? It gives you that beautiful touch of gold, right? Just wet your brush, put it in the gold, and roll it along your line. Just like that. And that just is just enough to give you that really beautiful, like, shimmer. You know what I mean? You do it anywhere. But I would be like picking. I would pick and choose, like I did some branches and then I rolled it along the line. I think that to me is like just beautiful and elegant and not too much gold. I think that's just a great way to just have something that's just brilliant and shiny and really pretty. Now, once this dries, you can sign your name on it. You can write Happy Holidays. You can do whatever you want. You can Shades of Fall or Upon Us. I don't know, whatever it is. But I would think ahead, and if you are going to write, I would probably do a more muted area somewhere on this, or maybe raise this area so you could write in here, and then lower this line here, and maybe just do these here. So kind of think, now that you've done your practice, where you want to write, and if you want to write something on your card in here, you know. And if that's the way it goes, then maybe you just do a clearing for it, you know, just put the blue all the way through and then build your trees over on the sides, you know. Even something like this, making it with a lot more of this white in the background, where it's just like a very, very light blue, or leaving a lot more space so that you could maybe write across there. All right. So just thinking ahead, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and this is something that you are inspired to paint. I'm really excited to even do more. Don't forget, we have Christmas paintings coming up, as well as all kinds of fun things that you can do with this beautiful palette as we move through this month. Guys, have a happy, happy day, and thank you so much for painting with me and being part of this month's monthly watercolor subscription. Don't forget, anything you sign up for right now is going to go a month further, so we have to still make the palette for you. So when you do sign up for something, just keep in mind that you're not going to get this palette unless you order this palette in addition to, and I would have to have some extras. So depending on when you're watching this video, I might or might not have this exact one available, but get on the list and start receiving these lovely colors, because you're going to want to do these challenges, and you're going to want to learn along with us and just enjoy having this fresh new palette in your hands with just enough paint for that month, and then we go on to another beautiful palette of paint. It's a great way to learn, and such a wonderful community to be part of. Have a lovely day, and I will talk to you again soon.